Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of See Yourself Grow with Tina. I am Tina Klura, and for those of you who don't know me, I am the founder and the CEO of the See Yourself and Your Business Grow coaching and consulting firm, and I help people get out of their own ways and into results in less than 90 days. I am a business growth consultant, an award-winning productivity coach, and a motivational speaker for kids, adults, and corporate. So today, first week of March, can't believe it. March 8th, at the end of this week, we are celebrating International Women's Day. And the theme for 2024 is invest in women, accelerate their progress. I love the word accelerate. It means to move faster, to gain speed at the rate of velocity, whether it's a speed or change in direction. As an entrepreneur, we're constantly changing and adapting to new ways of working, adapting, educating ourselves on the latest and greatest waves of being able to help our clients. So on March 19th at 12:30 p.m., I am hosting a free class on lead generation acceleration, how to secure 50 leads in 30 days. So if you're struggling with landing on the best or consistent tactics that work for you, then this class is for you. If you're struggling with landing at least 5 to 10 consistent, authentic, organic leads on a weekly basis, this class is for you. And if you do not have a solid way of tracking what is working for you in your business from a lead generation perspective, this class is for you. Don't miss out on an exclusive masterclass that has I have used these tactics for the last 5 years, and they have proven to help me skyrocket and hone in on what tactics work best for me. I'm going to be sharing tips for optimizing your website, your social media platforms. I'm going to be sharing 15 different ways, strategies identified for lead generation that's best for you, and so much more. So whether you are just starting out or you're looking to revitalize your lead generation strategy, this class could be for you. So if you are interested in joining me, I'll be putting the link in the comments below, or you could just type in lead generation acceleration class in Facebook and or LinkedIn. So, learning new ways of doing things can be exciting and scary all at the same time. This can create anxiety, uncertainty, and doubt that we may not be able to keep up with all the changing environments, times, tactics. This fear can make entrepreneurs hesitate, be indecisive, and avoid taking risk, ultimately limiting their ability to achieve success. To manage the fear of failure, entrepreneurs must recognize the setbacks and challenges as a natural part of the entrepreneurial journey. So, I've had quite a few setbacks in my last 14 years of business, but there is one thing I can always be sure of, and that is change. Everything is subject to change. Change is one of the constant things that we can rely on. And the sooner that we accept the change as part of our day to day activities, the sooner you will be able to adapt to the change. I know easier said than done, but if you are a self sabotager and you're listening to this live or on the replay, I just want you to type yes in the comments. Now, whether you're a self sabotager or you've ever had the doubt that you're not good enough or you're not smart enough, then I want you to type yes in the comments below if that is you, because self-sabotaging basically means that you are blocking yourself from making healthier choices and implementing more helpful habits in your daily life. If left unchecked, self-sabotaging behaviors can quickly escalate into severe dysfunction over time. But here to talk to us more about the entrepreneur's shift from self-sabotage to self-mastery is Jim Zborn. He helps entrepreneurs to eliminate self sabotage and replace it with self empowerment so that they can move forward with confidence and clarity, building businesses in authentic alignment with who they are and accomplishing what they always knew that they could do. So, without further ado, here's Jim. Hello, Jim.
Hello, Tina.
How are you today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How about yourself?
Excellent. I'm great. I'm great. Thank
Great.
you for asking. And thank you so much for being here with me today. So, Jim, can you tell us more about how it is that you are helping your clients?
Sure. I help entrepreneurs by taking away or eliminating self-sabotaging behavior and then replacing it with self-empowering resources that they already have. They just are not tapping into. That's really what I do.
Okay, excellent.
Very
So can
simple.
you yeah, it sounds simple. It sounds simple, but it can be complicated,
Mm.
depending on, who it is you're working with or, the different levels of complexity. So can you tell us a little bit more about, maybe a success story that you've had recently with a client?
Sure. Um, well, I just worked with a writer who was working on her second book, and she was extremely blocked. She couldn't get herself started on the project, and she had already written one book, and she already knew what she was going to write, but she was just very blocked. And took her through a 5 day process, 5 half-hour sessions, and we broke through that block. And really, it's the same process I do with everybody. Everybody's process is different. Everybody's the work I do is different with everybody, but there's really a very simple process that everybody, it's effective for everybody. And so basically, we just figured out what her block was, and then we heard we found the resistance to that block, and then we heard the story behind that resistance, and then we transformed that story and therefore transformed that resistance, and then we reinforced it. I hooked her into some of her resources that she already had. She had many, and then that same week, by the third day of the week, she was already off and running and writing her second book. So
Nice. That's amazing.
yeah,
So the first thing that I heard there, Jim, was identify.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think a lot of people are in denial and or struggle with identifying that they are struggling. And I'm sure, like you said, it's different for everyone, right? So is there something that you do specifically to help people identify what is the root cause or what's causing them to be blocked so that they can move on?
Oh, absolutely. That is the biggest problem, is identifying it, and a lot of times there's a of sense of it, but not really a laying on what the real issue is. And then on top of that, we develop all these stories to explain it to ourselves, but the stories aren't even what the real issue is. So it's very elusive, and it's actually elusive for a reason. It's a self protective measure. It doesn't want to be found out because it's actually oddly protecting us. It's just that it's going awry. So really, it's everything I do is by communication. I get all my transformations through strategic communication, and a person knows they kind of have to set aside. And what I do through communication is I help them. I hear the story I hear the stories they're telling themselves, and I hear what they're saying, and I hear what they're not saying. Is a lot of times what they're not saying, and I help them to get to what the real issue is. And I think a real key there, Tina, that anybody can do, and a lot of times, surprisingly, people don't do this, is a lot of times I get there by helping them to figure out what it is that they actually do want. A lot of times they're not even clear on that. Once they're clear on
Mm.
what they do want, and everybody can do this, it becomes starts to become clear what's getting in the way of that.
Mhm. Now, Jim, when I think about self sabotage,
Mhm.
I said in my intro, like if you don't identify it sooner rather than later, it could really it could cause a lot of dysfunction in your life or your business. So have you been or have you encountered a situation with a client where they're like an obsessive self
Oh yeah,
sabotager?
yeah.
Yeah, has that happened? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and really, it becomes dysfunctional at a certain point. In fact, it is dysfunctional from the beginning, but it
Mhm.
depends on how far it integrates into every area of your life.
Right.
But it's actually not a dysfunction. The outcome is dysfunctional. It's
Mm.
actually the person is not really broken. There's not really something to fix. Something is working too good, but it's working too good from the past, and it no longer applies.
Mm,
And so really it's if they keep up with that, it's really a part of themselves that has not really evolved. It's something they decided to protect themselves from, or some strategy for survival of some sort at some level that they decide upon, usually subconsciously, and often as a child. And it's something that has been working so good, but it's very buried. And so once it gets triggered, there's really not an access to a memory of it. If and plus it was a subconscious decision usually. So it's really something that is just needs to evolve to mature to the stage where the person is consciously trying to take action.
wow.
Um, it's really the story of my life, Tina. I
Mhm,
spent the first 3 decades of my life severely hampered from my goals, and it was yeah, it compounds and it gets worse and worse, and it does become dysfunctional. Not in a clinical sense. We're still operating, we're still living our lives, we're still working. What it's really doing is it's really not functioning the way we want it to function. We don't get the outcomes we want. We have, for those of us who have big dreams and big goals, which are typically entrepreneurs,
mhm,
we're constantly having to go up against our comfort zone. We're
right.
constantly having to do that, and if we are filled with fears or doubts or insecurities, limiting beliefs, all these are self-sabotaging things, and it even goes to more surface things like overwhelm and things like that.
Mhm,
The place where it really ends up showing up is that the person just doesn't their dreams don't become achieved because they're avoiding doing the things they need to do to achieve the dream, and they don't know why, and as much as they try, they can't do it. So instead of taking an action step of picking up the phone, calling somebody, or saying yes to somebody, they'll do
mhm.
more research, and then they'll do more learning, and then they'll do more certifications. And I
Mm.
mean, they're very hardworking, and they invest in themselves like crazy.
Yeah.
Those are really self-sabotaging behaviors when it becomes a way of escaping doing whatever it is that they actually really need to be doing also.
Yeah, yeah, and you know what, Jim, this is so perfect, like, I I tie it into the procrastination habits as well, right?
Mm,
Right? We
yes.
procrastinate on taking action on the
Yes.
things, that we know that we should be doing, but rather we'll focus on the things that give us most pleasure, right? That keep us in the comfort zone, that keep us in that safe space.
Yes. Yeah,
Rather than, heading like basically doing what we know that we should be doing, but rather we're
exactly.
not ready to, right?
Exactly. And that is self-sabotage, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's very interesting. And so Jim, what are you mentioned a few of them, but like if you could just tell us a little bit more, like maybe three tips to our self-sabotagers who are listening right now.
Mhm.
What are three things that they could do when they catch themselves self-sabotaging? Or maybe we talk about what are the symptoms a little bit, and then
Mhm.
what are three things that we could do to combat those?
Sure. I think the symptom always comes down to that the person wants to do something. They've made a decision to do something at some level of decision, but they've made some kind of a commitment to it, even if it's just kind of casual.
Mm-hmm.
But they've decided to do something, but then somehow it never gets done. Something always comes up, or there's an emergency, or they get distracted, or they think they need to know something else. But so one of the tips would be just go for a minimum viable product, or just go for a minimum viable blog post, or a minimum viable whatever. And if you just go to get some basic thing done, and you suddenly can't get that done, you're probably self-sabotaging. And perfectionism is a huge place where self-sabotaging comes. So if you can get some basic, if you decide to do something, you get some basic thing out to start, and you just put it out there, you probably are not self-sabotaging. You're just on a learning curve. You're learning how to do some things. And so it's a
Okay.
challenge, but there's growth, but you can do it.
Okay.
But if you've learned and studied and taken all kinds of courses, and you're just getting more and more confused, you're definitely self-sabotaging. So that's the symptom, I'd say. You decided to do something, and you could do something very simple to start with, but somehow you can't even do that because it gets more and more complicated. And I know how that feels. I mean, it's like one thing leads to another, to another, to another, till all of a sudden you to figure out one little blog post, you're figuring out the nature of the universe, right?
Yeah, we've all been down those rabbit holes, right?
So 3 tips. Okay. I think a good first one is what's already been alluded to. Figuring out what it is, and I think a good way to do that is really define what it is that you want to do. So rather than trying to figure out what you're not doing, figure out what you want to do, and then do something that is going to move you a step forward. And then if you get resistance, what you need to do, what you want to do is um, and the resistance could be just a feeling, could be fears, it could be doubts, it could be insecurity. So it could be as simple as that. But listen to yourself. Listen, there's a story behind that. You're not broken. Something's working too good in out of context, and so you want to hear this. You want to find out where the resistance is. You won't find that resistance usually until you start trying it. So figure out what you want to do. Set out to do that. See what the resistance is that's coming up, and then listen for the story behind that. What story must you believe to believe that thing that is under there? And it's almost always it's an inauthentic story. It doesn't fit the person. It's rather something they picked up from parents or from teachers or from society, and it really doesn't fit them. They've just adopted it as a survival thing, and that's fine. But when they want to set some part of it aside to do what they want to do, it becomes a problem. Or it's a core belief system thing, and they've developed a belief about themselves, or a belief about the world, or about a belief about other people, and this is now a more foundational place where self sabotage is taking place. So the first level sabotage, I call that decluttering the head. It's like soundtracks that are not really us, but we hear them and we think they're us because they're in our head, and so we think that, I feel this way, when we really it's really just we're following it's a habit of thought.
Mm-hmm.
But then if it goes even deeper than that, we need to shift those beliefs, and that's where the transformation actually takes place. Um, and that there's a number of ways to do it. It's a natural process. I mean, because we all will transform at different stages in our lives, and we could transform our entire lives. It's usually a very slow process. It's a matter of stretching out the comfort zone little by little, and then readjusting at a subconscious level our understanding of who we are and the world, and so the beliefs shift. Mindset can help, but mindset is a if the mindset fits with what we already believe about ourselves, it's perfect. We will support it. Our subconscious will support it. But if it does not fit, or if it's in conflict with something we believe ourselves, it'll make conscious sense, and we'll adopt it. And we might say it like as an affirmation or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what happens is it constantly gets rejected until it starts to sink in, and that could be a very long time to get something from the surface to sink in. It takes a lot of repetition, and it takes a
Mm-hmm.
lot of emotion. It needs to be flagged to the subconscious as, hey, the, I'm conscious. My conscious mind is really wanting this, because our conscious mind is like looking around all day long and say, oh, I'd like to do that. Oh, I want that. Or, oh, that's interesting. Oh, you say I should do that. Oh, and there's like all these requests, and everything gets drowned out. So the subconscious will know what we actually want to do, and then it will start helping us do that. But usually we don't get the message across clearly enough. So it's repetition and the and the intensity, or the intensity of emotions. So so decide what it is you want to do. To start doing that, see what comes up. Look at the stories behind what's coming up that's keeping you from doing it, and then flip those stories, say the opposite of truth usually, and
Mm-hmm.
see what happens there. And then eventually what'll happen is you'll begin to shift your beliefs, and it'll happen at a deep level.
I love that. Now, Jim, something that you said about the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, right? I want to get your thoughts on this, because I've always heard, and I don't know if it's true, that like I do my morning rituals, my meditating, my visualization, my manifesting activities first thing in the morning. Is it good to do them at night before you are going into sleep, into that sleep mode, to tap into the subconscious mind? Is there
Mhm.
some truth to that?
Oh, sure, a lot of truth. And the question in there, it's good either time. There's a benefit at night, maybe that's not there in the day, but there's a benefit in the day that's not there in the night. So,
Mm,
and if you do both, you're even better off. Um, but what's happening there, Teen, is our brain waves are running at a certain frequency, the electrical impulses in our brain. And when we're like really, high pressure, we're in like a gamma frequency. That's not that often, but then usually we're in a beta frequency, which is kind of like conscious awareness and getting things done type of a mode. When we relax, we go down to an alpha wave. The waves slow down some, and we're more relaxed. And what'll happen is you're going lower in that alpha range. That's where a lot of meditation, it takes place, and or just sitting on the couch relaxing, at a little bit higher end of the alpha. But as you go deeper and deeper in that your brain is slowing down more and more, and so what'll happen is at the next stage would be theta waves, and those are very slow. The top of the theta waves is where deep meditation goes, or uh, hypnosis. And then if you go really into theta waves, very deep, it's REM sleep. And then will go to delta sleep, and where you're not even dreaming at all. It's if you're having dreams or auditory, uh, all of your resources of your body are healing you. So what's happening when you go to sleep is you get in bed and you're kind of winding down. You're in alpha. Then you start to drift into theta, and so you're going into hypnosis when you're going to sleep, and you're coming out of hypnosis because it's the stage between active and sleep.
mhm.
So you're kind of hacking into your natural hypnotic state when you are waking up or when you're going to bed. Disadvantage of bed is you'll fall asleep, but then again, your subconscious will most likely work on whatever you were thinking about. So that's the advantage. The advantage of the morning is you're going to be going about the day, and if you just set, it's kind of like setting intentions. It's a nice time to set intentions, and then you go about your day, but you're not thinking about it, but your conscious mind is awake. Your subconscious mind is working on it anyway in the background. So both are
Mhm.
good, and that's a good time to do it.
I love that. No, it's so good. And I love your explanation. Because I didn't get, the full explanation when I started doing all of this work on myself.
Mhm,
But it totally makes sense. And
mhm.
I try to do this with my kids as well. First thing in the morning. The evening is a bit tough, just trying to get them to bed, but saying the right things to themselves, setting the intentions. What are you
Right,
grateful for? That
right.
those are the conversations we're having.
Nice. Gratefulness is very important. That really sets a stage for the internal dialogues for anything, any kind of self sabotage. Gratefulness usually has something to do with it. A lot of times, forgiveness. There's certain usual things that are affecting people that created the situation where there's these self sabotaging habits.
Yes.
Scarcity or poverty mentality is huge for self sabotage.
Mm.
People, they're trying to keep themselves there because they're so focused on it. Subconsciously they're keeping themselves there because they know that space. And so gratitude's big for that. So gratitude's an excellent all around supplement, emotional supplement. That's very good.
Okay, good to know. So, Jim, when we first met at the beginning of the year, you had mentioned something to me, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between transformational change and translational change.
Sure, absolutely.
Can you
It's
tell us a little bit more about that?
absolutely, Tina. It's one of my favorite topics. Actually, it's very important. Um, a lot of change is that we try to implement in our lives through self-help books, programs, courses, even hypnosis at certain levels, um, uh, where it's designed to change habits. Really, is changing the surface, and it's okay because that can happen, and we can change that surface. But the thing is that what's on the surface is really resulting as an outcome from what's deeper inside. And so if we take away the surface, it will pop up somewhere else. And when we take care of the surface, we aren't taking care of other things that are resulting from that thing on the bottom or inside very deep. But when we go to the core level of our beliefs and we make changes there, the change will happen not only on the surface thing that we want, but it'll change in everywhere else where that's having an effect. So, for a very comprehensive change, transformational change is really what we want to go for. I can get transformational change, all day long, and I'll get transformational change for people, every session we'll get transformational changes. Those are very easy to do, but they do have to be maintained, but they're easier to maintain because the beliefs support the actions, right? So, whereas with the it's almost like you're stepping into a new timeline. We make that change, then you start taking different actions, and the more you step in those actions, the more you end up with a new outcome. But those steps are easier to take because your beliefs support them. They are in alignment with who you now believe yourself to be, or what you now know yourself to be that you didn't know before.
Right.
Whereas if we try to make change, where if it's a surface change, it often involves a little bit more of the will, and we can step off into a new timeline, but the habit is from our old timeline, so we start to veer back often. Once again, a lot of frequency and a lot of intensity of emotion in our efforts is going to it's going to aim our subconscious. Basically, it's called the reticular activating system. It's a homing device that we're all built with, and it will guide itself towards your goals. But the problem is most people's goals have been so fuzzy that it's guided all over the place. But if you really, like through meditation and things like that, if you affirmations, intentions, you really guide it with specificity where you want it to go, and you do it frequently and with a lot of emotional intensity behind it, where you flag your subconscious that, hey, this is it. It will actually cause you to see things in your environment that fit what you're wanting, and will cause you to see what doesn't fit, and you can therefore avoid it. So when we make changes at that deep level, and then we support it with that RAS, the reticular activating system, it's very easy to stay on that new pathway, and then the change happens. So the transformational change is not difficult to get at all. In fact, if we're looking for it, if somebody's in front of me looking to change something, they're already ready to do the transformation. Now that's easy for me because I'm trained in it, and this is my profession. Um, what we need to do if just like a little bit more organically. What I do is organic, but I speed the process up.
Mhm.
But if I was doing it just organically, it would be like meditating or just thinking aloud, or affirmations of what I clearly want and focusing on that. It's going to be very much like law of attraction would do, like the thinking and all that. That's going to eventually shift the inside. It's going to eventually shift the beliefs, and it's taking an outside in approach. So outside in is fine. That's how we mostly change, but it's a slower process, and it's subject to getting thrown off track quite a bit. I,
Nice.
I hope I
Wow.
answered your question and all that.
Yeah, you did, and you know what? Like the whole outside in, right? That resonates with me because, like you said, it's like surface. Like on the
Mhm,
surface, we can make these small changes, but
mhm.
if we're not going deep enough, these reoccurrences could happen,
Oh,
right?
sure, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And one of the things that a lot of my clients seem to be concerned about when they first start working with me is this going to be permanent? Is this going to work? I've tried all kinds of things, and it really hasn't stuck. Well, the thing is, they're amazed because when we're finished with the process, they're actually more who they actually are than they were before. And because it's more who they are, it's like more true to who they authentically are now. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, this is just what I do.
I'm bringing you back to who you naturally are
Well,
or
yeah,
supposed
because
to be.
yeah,
Yeah.
very much so, because we just build up all these layers of stuff from society and from ourselves, and these voices going on and these
Yeah.
soundtracks in our head.
Yeah.
And once that is able to be shed away, we're very much who we are.
Yeah, yeah, it's our core. You
Right.
bringing us back to the core of who
Yes.
we naturally are.
Yes.
Yeah, so I love that analogy, like piling we're just piling all these layers on that
Mm.
is really protecting us
Yeah.
from the fear of the unknown or getting out
Yeah.
of the comfort zone. So
Yes.
Jim, this is so awesome. Thank you so much for this. So is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to touch upon?
I think we had a very nice, rounded conversation. There's really, it just started out with, we have to define what we want, and
Yeah.
it's easier by defining what we want rather than defining what we don't want. Then once we do that, just trying it, seeing what happens, and then hearing, listening to ourselves and really hearing what's going on. Then look at, well, what must I believe? What stories must I believe about myself or other people for this to be true? And then flip that story, and then it didn't really talk about tapping into the resources you already have. That could be like a whole nother conversation, but we all have the resources we need to do anything we want to do. And it's usually it's very disconnected. We do not connect ourselves to those resources. And this is part of what I do, is I not only eliminate uh, self sabotage, but I connect people to the resources. So it's a powerful combination. So, um, uh, uh, not only flip those stories, but start finding those stories about why you're good or why you can do this. Tap into your resources, and you're going to have to start surface level, unless you're doing something that's going to bring you deeper right off the bat and get past your what would be called critical factor. That's automatically rejecting ideas. But you can do that by frequency and intensity, intensity of emotion.
Excellent. All right. Well, you've given us a lot to think about, a lot to process here, Jim. Do you have anything special coming up that you want to tell us about?
Well, I've been doing these fantastic 5 day custom one-on-one challenges. I can't do many, so I set aside so many a month, and they've been fantastic for people. What we do is, typically there's like the 5 day challenge, and you get together and as a group. But I'm just getting together with individuals, and we're identifying one thing that's they're self sabotaging in, one thing that's holding them back, and we just for 5 days, 30 minutes a day, boom. Usually it's like by day two, it's already cleared. Day one, it's already like light bulbs are going off. Day two, it's already sinking in. Then we're maturing it the rest of the week, and the transformations are amazing. Um, and I've been running those for free. I have a waiting list on there, and I can provide the link, but to get on my waiting list. But what I'll do, Tina, for your audience is the first 5 people who join the waiting list, and put in the promo code Tina, Tina. I'll guarantee they get a spot in March
Oh,
this month. So I'll move them like to the head of the line. But
nice.
in there, we identify, like, we figure out exactly what the person wants to do, and then we find the resistant points, and then we hear the underlying story, then we flip the underlying story, then we so transforming that resistance, and then we reinforce by accessing inner resources. It's the same thing I do with my long-term coaching clients. It's just that here we're like pinpointing one thing, and just like getting it right off.
Amazing. Wow. It's like laser focus
it, it's
coaching and
it's
yeah,
laser
I love
focused,
that.
but it's in depth too. So
Yeah.
it's like laser, but it's like really pinpointed and goes deep. Yeah, it's
Nice.
really been fantastic. I enjoy doing them. I don't know how long I'll do them, but I set aside about 20 a month that I can do, and I think it's an important part of what I do. It's a way for me to work with people who can't necessarily afford me, and it's a way for people who can, to see exactly what I can do before they make any kind of investment. So for me, it doesn't really matter what they're going to do. I get some testimonials from it, or whatever. It's just a lot of fun for me, and I get better and better the more I do it.
Love it.
So I can only limit my time for them, but
Yep.
right now I'm doing them. So now's the time to take advantage of it.
Excellent. Okay, perfect. So we'll be putting the link for that in the comments, both on Facebook and on LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so Jim, how, like, for people listening on the replay, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Right now, if you like email, it would be Jim Zaborin at entiremindadvantage.com. Or if you're on Facebook, I spend a lot of time on my Facebook profile, and there's a lot of content on that profile. So you can go to jimzaborin.com, and that redirects to my Facebook page, or you can just search me by at jimzaborin1, and that's like the best way to get a hold of me. I've got a free Facebook group where I talk even more about these kind of topics, and you'll see a button on top of my banner. You can just press there, and it'll take you to a place where you can click through and join if you want, or just friend me and on my profile.
Excellent. Okay. Well, there you have it. Jim, thank you so much for all of your knowledge, all of your wisdom, for spending this time with us today. I greatly appreciate you and everything that you do. Without further ado, I will end our time together.
Thank you, Tina.
But yeah, feel free to hang out backstage, Jim. I'm just going to wrap things up. But if you have to go, I totally understand. Thank you again for
Thank you,
everything.
Tina. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Enjoy the day.
You too.
All right. There you have it, everyone. Jim's born. We'll be putting all his contact information in the chat, in the comments. And you heard him. He's putting anyone from my Facebook group, from my LinkedIn profile, from YouTube. If you put the promo code TINA, TINA, he's going to bump you up on his waiting list. And these sessions are free. So if you have a limiting belief, if you have any concerns with any limiting beliefs, blockages, self-sabotaging activities, please take Jim up on his offer. He's amazing. So one of the things that I love doing is bringing people together to connect, collaborate, innovate, and motivate. So March 29th is going to be my next free networking event. So I'll be putting that link in the chat. And Jim is a regular participant of those events, so you can have some additional time chatting with Jim at one of those events. So thank you so much for listening. I look forward to seeing you and your business grow. Enjoy the day and take advantage of this month. Stay focused on what it is that you want to achieve, even if it is just one thing. Give it the attention that it deserves and watch magic happen. Thanks, everyone. Bye.